Hello, everybody, and were you gonna say something, Allison?
No, 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 no. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. He-
Anyway.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and today's show is
Choo.
maintaining frame number 35. Boys aren't losing role models; girls are. Some of you might. Some of you might have seen this that the video was up earlier with a different title. We're gonna do that one later in the week.
Wherein we watch uh, the author attempt to understand boys' issues despite being the mother of teenage boys, and it very much resembles watching a golden lab attempt to drive shift.
Yeah, right.
Attempt to drive stick. Getting in the car. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So how do you do this? I don't understand. Oh, God. Oh, it's actually really funny, really funny in an incredibly sad way.
Yeah.
But I do have something to say now, Brian, now that the intro is over.
Okay.
We are doing our monthly fundraiser at feedthebadger.com/support. I'll do shout outs to anybody who puts a few shekels in during the show, and maybe I'll do some arm twisting, since you guys seem to enjoy that. So feedthebadger.com/support. Please take time to open it up and consider all of the options to give support and put something through. Make sure that we can continue to push back against misandry in all of its forms, every single way that it emerges from the human psyche, regardless of people's political affiliations or parties, shall we say. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com/support. And also I am still calling out for beta readers for my story. If you are interested in beta reading, it is a fiction. It's like a fantasy novel, so it's not essays or anything. It's actually a story. If you're interested in helping me out with that, you can send a message to badger@feedthebadger.com, and I will get you in the program because I'm getting close to the 2-week countdown for beta readers. And some people are asking me what the story is about. It's essentially, if you can imagine, The Matrix meets the Cold War, or specifically the Hunt for Red October. But a lot of people don't know what the Hunt for Red October is, so I use the Cold War.
Well, those people are fools.
Yeah. So the tagline is a secret agent assassin infiltrates Norse mythology to stop Ragnarok. So once again, if that sounds interesting, please send a message to badger@feedthebadger.com. And if you'd like to make sure we can keep doing these shows, feedthebadger.com/support. All right, let's do this.
All
As
right.
it were.
Let's get into this.
Let's get into her rationale.
Mm-hmm.
Why you notice this? If boys face something or men face something, and then they'll be like, this thing isn't happening. It's actually happening to girls and women. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Of course. Of course. Nothing happens to men.
Castration isn't something that men and boys face. It actually is something that girls and women face.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So this is from The Critic, and it's entitled, Boys Aren't Losing Role Models, Girls Are. Responses to online misogyny have missed the point. What were you going to say?
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Of course. Of course. Of course. No matter how it looks, trust us, it's worse for girls. Yeah. All right. Following the arrest of influencer Andrew Tate, because, he's the guy we're all going to use now. He's the, what would you call it?
Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was one of the early ones. I think he was in like the early noughties, right? Can you remember Dick Masterson?
Maybe. I mean, it's like the thing that you dangle to make people pay attention.
Yeah, but Andrew Tate is a long line of pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, considering the trajectory, wake me up when all the young men are following more of a Genghis Khan or an Attila the Hun figure, because it's that's probably going to be Andrew Tate of 2042.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
the leader of the sea people. we're gonna sack Egypt anyway. Like this is what I'm saying is that there's always a new one, like every couple years.
Yeah, because like there's always, unfortunately, there's always a man, because they don't do this with women. There's always a man that wants to speak up or wants to, say something, and he gets a little bit too close to the truth. Sometimes, sometimes these guys know, but sometimes they're not 100% sure, but they feel like there's something, wrong, and they haven't like quite put their finger on it.
Well, yeah, they want to speak up, but they also become the face of online misogyny, and they often say some really controversial stuff. But what I've noticed lately is that the cycle seems to be quicker. Because I remember when everything was Nick Fuentes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that like 6 months ago? It's like 6 months ago.
That was like last year, yeah.
Yeah, last year. So it seems like they used to last like more like 5 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Now they seem to be lasting a year. I mean, I don't know who it's going to be in 2024, but I'm sure it's going to. And of course, they also seem to be getting more extreme, because I think this is the first one that has allegedly been a sex trafficker.
He is accused of it. That's all.
I said allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly accused of it. Or he's not allegedly accused, but he's allegedly that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first one. It's getting a little bit darker, it seems, maybe.
They're becoming more extreme. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but
like I said, wake me up when the next one's like Genghis Khan, because
right.
It seems to be the trajectory going on, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right. Following the arrest of influencer Andrew Tate for human trafficking, parents of teenage boys are being encouraged to talk to their sons about online misogyny. I am one such parent, though precisely what I am supposed to say, I'm not sure. You're a terrible parent. So.
Yes, I guess you're supposed to say, well, even though you have nothing in common with this human being, you are responsible for whatever thing he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Has been accused of, not even done. Like where's the trial? Yeah, it hasn't been proven that he did this. And what kind of sex trafficking are we talking about? Did he just give a ride to a prostitute? That, because that's considered sex trafficking, guys.
Yeah.
Did you know that it's just as simple as that? You could pick up a prostitute, not know she's a prostitute, give her a ride between 2 states, and be a sex trafficker.
Across straight lines, no less.
Yeah, across straight lines. Yep. So the moral of the story is: do not pick up women hitchhikers. But that's the point. So what form of human trafficking is he being accused of? Is he actually guilty? We don't know. But he's been accused. Therefore, this woman's sons should feel like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wonder why these young men are running away. Like, this is the problem. Do you see how there's like this transitive guilt? Right? So Andrew Tate goes off and does some shit. Suddenly this woman's sons have to be involved, are responsible, are to blame in some way. So we have this entire society that very much wants to treat young men as a monolith, as one thing, as a group. And that group is very negative and responsible for all the bad things it does, right? Individual members it does, plus whatever we can pin on it as a amorphous entity that apparently has a hive mind. So, but you see that we have this compulsion to treat boys as a group, and blame them as a group for the behavior of men that they have no control over. And I really doubt that Andrew Tate's fan base is more than maybe 0.1% of all men and boys around the world. Like, maybe that. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that to insult him. I'm just saying that to say, you're making all men and boys take responsibility for somebody they probably don't even support or listen to. And I don't know his entire corpus. Is corpus the right word? His entire oeuvre? Is that the right way to say it?
I have no idea.
Body of work. I don't know his entire body of work.
I mean, I think he's more PUA than anything else.
Okay,
so,
all right.
He just uses his money and his influence and his status, I guess, to sleep with women and to try to live the life that he wants in the way that he wants. So I don't think any of that's illegal, but I know that a man who is really successful with women with maybe not a lot of effort pisses off a lot of women. The women, because they usually don't get chosen. So
well, maybe that's a thing. But what I'm overall trying to get at, less the bitterness and more the fact, I just want to point this out and keep it salient in people's minds, that there's this impulse to treat boys as a monolith and make them take responsibility for people they have no control over. So there's that thing. This is what our society wants to do. It wants to see boys as a group because it wants to blame men and boys for things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We can keep going. I just want to keep that in mind as we go through.
So anyway, she says, I'm one such parent, though precisely what I'm supposed to say, I'm not sure. Masculinity must be something that femininity or womanhood are not.
That's just the big quote that they bring out from somewhere in there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That misogyny is bad? That rape isn't fun? That women and girls are people too? If my sons don't know this already, what hope is there? Well, at least you admit to that part of it.
Well, have you raped them?
Yeah, right.
Okay, what's your name? Victoria Smith. Have you raped your sons? Well, if you haven't raped them, then you're doing a good job teaching them not to rape. Yep. Congratulations. There you go. You're doing the biggest job you can as a woman to teach your sons not to rape, and that is not to rape them.
It's true.
Is that I mean, I feel like that there's a silence there, and people are like, what? Yes. Yes. There's absolutely no evidence that rape jokes or this amorphous rape culture or any of this other stuff that feminists talk about changes the rate of rape or makes men rape. But there is evidence that being raped by a woman has a very high causal impact on whether or not a young man will go on to abuse others. So the very best thing that feminist women can do to prevent their sons from raping is not to rape them. There you go. Good job. I assume that. So let's assuming that Victoria has avoided raping her sons. She doesn't need to tell them that rape is not fun. They'll pick up on that. I mean, even if she does rape her sons, she got 2 sons. The likelihood is that both of them will realize that their mother is a rapist and that is bad to do to women, and they won't do it. So, but if she wants to prevent them becoming rapists, that's the biggest thing she can do. The other biggest thing she can do is prevent them from being sexually abused, or not neglect them, not physically abuse them, don't put them through severe trauma, that kind of thing. And if that does happen to them, make sure to tell a young man who experiences this that this was a bad thing to do to him. Do not tell young men. Now, most young men will probably get the double standard if they are raped by an older woman, that rape is bad if they do it to women, even though it's apparently good if it's done to them. But some young men with impulse control when you tell them rape is good, that being physically forced is good, they may take you at your word.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Then we're doing a lot to reduce the rate of rape. But I'm guessing nobody wants to do that. Instead, they want to somehow associate Andrew Tate. I don't think he was accused of rape, right? No.
They want to, but like they don't have anything in that department.
They don't have anything. You'd think they might, because I don't know.
Well,
but
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next thing. And I'm not saying that he did, but it seems like there's a progression here.
Yeah, it's the next natural. It's the next
natural step. It's a little blood in the water. So, all right.
Anyway, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I haven't tried, albeit with that feeling of gardening in a gale. Whatever seeds I plant could instantly be blown away. On the one hand, it feels stupid, offensive even, to suddenly behave as though the boys I knew and loved could be in thrall to incel culture. If this makes my sons defensive, I cannot blame them. On the other, I suspect that they do not notice all the ways in which beliefs about female inferiority are embedded. I've struggled to notice them too.
Beliefs about female inferiority. You mean beliefs, like literally what she's talking about is a feelie that she has. Mm-hmm. And I can tell her exactly where that feelie comes from. But in order for her to internalize the statement, she would have to realize that she's doing it herself. That feeling comes from the fact that people do not treat women's actions with the same weight of consequence as men's. If you do that, by definition, women feel inferior because they never have the same effect on their environment or are recognized to have the same effect on their environment as men. That's where the feeling comes from. But for some reason, she can't get away from doing that to herself to actually recognize it and challenge it. So she just pushes it on her freaking sons, of all people, the people most vulnerable to her.
Yeah. Good point.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Still, the arrest of Tate has to mean something. And something must be done. Hence, a plethora. Oh, what were you going to say?
Oh, yeah, due process, friend. Due process.
Yeah.
Due process must be done. And then when he's successfully convicted of something, I guess you will have found a man convicted of sexual trafficking or human trafficking. Mm-hmm. And if he continues to have huge crowds of boys and men, maybe you can then complain. But we're going to put the cart before the horse. Mm-hmm. We're going to convict this guy and by extension, all of his followers.
May as well play it safe.
Yeah, I guess so. Let's just throw it all out because boys are primarily a problem. They're all one group and they're primarily a problem. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Still, the arrest of Tate has to mean something, and something must be done. Hence, a plethora of articles musing on why teenage boys are drawn to him and how one might distract them. We are told the Tate fans are vulnerable, that with a dearth of alternatives, Tate offers them a blueprint of how to be a man, that Tate has become, quote, a role model for a generation of lost boys. Thus, a story which has at its heart the hatred and abuse of women and girls ends up leading to calls for more attention and sympathy for men and boys.
This is the problem, isn't it? This is the problem in her eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the thing is, most of the time, men don't think that the normal, let's say, most of the time, men don't think that the sort of normal prescriptions for men are at all interested in their well-being. So that's why they're mad, because they're all of the things that have been written, that have been talked about, whatever, whenever they're talking about Andrew Tate, or at least like the influence that, work like his has, like they'll say the same thing about Jordan Peterson. They'll say, the same thing about Fresh and Fit, probably, right? Mm-hmm. The problem with all of those, though, is that men feel as though they're getting something out of the work that men are doing, and so they don't trust these, like, you know, what do you call them, female psychologists, or, you know, gender experts or whatever. They don't trust them, and why should they? Like, though, you know, they're the enemy. I mean, in many ways. So
I mean, I don't want to necessarily get into, maybe I will. This is a little preview. You remember when I said that she wants to put boys into a group? She wants there to be a group identity for boys, but she wants it to be negative. Mm-hmm. She wants it to be blamed. So if a male person does something bad, all boys and men are to blame. And then, of course, they're also to blame for all of the vague stuff that, you know, patriarchy does. They're allegedly does, according to them. Which, again, we've never actually even bothered to have some kind of court case for men as a group accused of, felony patriarchy. So we never really convicted men of that. We never even thought that maybe there should be some due process for men as a group, since we're treating them as one entity now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she wants boys and men to be perceived as a separate group from women and girls. Okay. This is what she wants. She wants that to exist. And this is really critical. This is a really critical point to keep in mind as we go through, to understand what she's doing. All right, let's do another paragraph.
All right. Except, as Martha Gill writes in The Guardian, I did read that, right? Yeah. Men do not, in fact, lack for role models. They have entire libraries, film archives, and the leaders of almost every country and profession. Really? The insistence that the latest expression of misogyny is a symptom of masculinity in crisis is not at all new. As Tanya... Oh, go ahead.
I want to get in there. Just in there. All right. Why are we restricting this to role models? Maybe men and boys don't need role models. What they need is somebody who recognizes the problems they face, gives them some kind of hope for the future, some kind of roadmap to improve their lives, or some kind of sympathy and compassion. That doesn't have to come from a role model. It could come from a woman. You know, and men could be like, oh, wow, that's good. Like Karen, Hannah also, but Karen in particular. Like, she's a role model of that. She offers compassion to men. You know, that's not sorry, that is not a role model, but it's a something model. It's a compassion model, but it's not like, oh, well, men are going to become Karen, right? There's I guess maybe some trans women want to become Karen, but aside from that, she's not a role model as such. She's a model of compassion for men. So maybe that's what men need. Some compassion, some consideration. I think I know that Jordan Peterson does that. More than being a role model, I think a lot of what gives him impact is he is visibly moved by the plight of men and boys. And he expresses that. Now, you know, we can have problems with things that he said in the past, and he's maybe gone or reconsidered some of his points of view when it comes to men and the decisions that they've made. But he definitely expresses compassion and concern and is emotionally moved by the problems that men face. Maybe that's more what men need. Maybe they don't need more examples how they themselves right now don't measure up to the men of the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. All right.
I'm going to the door, so I might be a bit.
What?
Oh, there's a little bit of background noise because somebody came to the door. I apologize for that.
Oh, that's okay. So I have a couple super chats. I should read them out really quick.
Oh, yeah. Before we get into that, be sure to send your messages also to feedthebadger.com/justthetip.
Yes. Okay. Albert Nader Retro gives us $2 Canadian and says, Abbott and Preach have a video on Tate you should watch. All right. Senior Sticks gives us $2 and says, Tate knew he was banned from entering Romania. So I heard those things. Thank you for sharing that with us. I don't know if it really makes a huge difference.
The point is, it doesn't matter. Like Tate, no offense, but I've seen so many of these guys over the years in the same sort of intersection between having a male fandom and media opprobrium. It's like every couple of years a new one comes out. It's not Andrew Tate specifically. It's this woman using Andrew Tate to somehow make her teenage sons responsible for her adult ass. Okay? For women. It's like Andrew Tate equals my teenage sons have to save women, and I need to tell them how.
Right.
Andrew Tate equals my teenage sons shares in some original sin of all men and boys. Okay? That's the issue. Because, in 5 years, it's going to probably be, I don't know, Brett Gorilla or a new guy.
Yeah,
that they're doing the same damn thing to.
Yeah, sure.
Because it always needs to be somebody in this role, that somebody who is vilified for his masculinity. And I mean, I think that, Jordan Peterson is quite separate from this because he actually comes at this from a very different point of view, in my opinion. And much more solid, grounded in psychology and also mythology and genuine compassion. Not that I'm saying that Andrew Tate doesn't have genuine compassion. I don't know. I haven't really seen that much of him. But the point is that once again, we are using an Andrew Tate to blame all boys for something. Yeah. Demonstrating that this woman and women of her ideological ilk definitely want boys and men to be part of a group that is separate from women and girls. Okay.
All right. Yes. The starch god gives us looks like a pink ice cream cone.
Thank you.
And $1.99 Australian. Yeah. So thank you for the ice cream. I can't have any though. I'm fasting today.
I choose to believe that pink ice cream. I don't know. I like the pink bubblegum flavor. I don't know what flavor it is though.
Oh, this one?
It's just the flavor pink, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be strawberry. That's usually what I think when I see a pink ice cream cone.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna do a shout out. Cam D put $5 into the hat at feedthebadger.com/support. So thank you, Cam D.
Thank you.
And if you would like to join, I guess Cam's a little bit him or her. If you're Cam D, please, you can specify. Then go to feedthebadger.com/support, and very appreciated. Okay, another paragraph.
Yeah, another paragraph.
I'm a little hyped up on some caffeine here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, caffeine is nice.
I need to calm. I'll just calm my. I'll try to meditate and chill. Chill my tit a bit.
Still, the arrest of Tate has to mean something. I think I read that already.
Yeah, you read that.
All right, so except
as Tanya Modelsky wrote.
Oh, that's right. I had to stop halfway through.
Yeah, because I'm a dick. Okay.
That's okay. It's all right. So we are told that Tate fans are. Is that where I was?
No, as Tanya Modelsky
wrote. Oh, yeah. I see it. As Tanya Modelsky wrote in 1991's Feminism Without Women, male power is actually consolidated through cycles of crisis and resolution, whereby men ultimately deal with the threat of female power by incorporating it.
What the hell does that even mean?
I don't know. Like, what? I don't know. It's basically, what's the book about? Feminism Without Women.
You know what I think this is? I think this is the phenomenon that we've talked about, how feminism will do something, or feminists will advocate for something, then they will get it, and then they'll be like, well, but this has downsides, and suddenly the thing becomes patriarchy. It's like what they did with Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner, back in the day, was a feminist who advocated for sexual liberation, but now we're at sexual liberation and feminists are like, we don't like it. So Hugh Hefner is now the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're seeing is they get something, they don't like it, and then they say, oh, well, patriarchy did that instead of feminists.
Yeah.
And now he's saying that men ultimately deal with the threat of female power by incorporating it. Well, what they're actually seeing is they do something they don't like, and they blame it on patriarchy, and then they're like, well, patriarchy just incorporated female power again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's them all the way down.
Of course it is.
Oh man. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
In so many of the mainstream responses to men, such as Tate, I see not so much an engagement with the threat of violent misogyny as the deployment of good masculinity, which she puts in scare quotes. Good masculinity in a protection racket. Make boys feel secure in their masculinity, we are told, and then they won't hurt you. How does one do that? How should girls go about assuring boys of their difference, their specialness, without making less of girls themselves? So now, apparently, being a good boy is the same as being a like a mafia heavy that, you know, you should be grateful they didn't like, I don't know, bust your house up or break anything in your business or whatever, because go ahead.
Well, I get what you're saying. So being a good boy is all right.
It's the way she's framing it.
Yeah. Make boys feel secure in their masculinity, we were told, and then they like, honestly, how have Andrew Tate fans hurt anyone? The answer is they haven't. Except for disagreeing or maybe not believing what you believe. How have your sons hurt you, lady? Because that's ultimately what you're saying, is the existence of Andrew Tate means my sons hurt me somehow. And that's bullshit. Like, where's the causal link between Andrew Tate boys and... There is none. You haven't made it. So you don't get to say that. Make boys feel secure in their masculinity, we are told, and then they won't hurt you. No. Okay. Individual boys and men engage in criminal activities for which we have something called the justice system. You're talking about boys as a group, and you're saying boys as a group hurt girls. How?
Yeah.
How? How do they do that? Explain that. How do boys as a group hurt girls? And actually make it something specific, not a specific boy engaging in some criminal activity that everybody agrees is wrong. But how do boys as a group, how do they collectively, without attributing malice and intent of individual actors to the entire group, what do boys collectively do? The answer is nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. She wants boys to have a specialness. And what I mean by that is she wants boys and men to be separate from women and girls. Now, it might be a negative specialness, but she wants them to be separate here.
Yeah.
Okay? All right? She wants them to be separate, but she does not want them to feel any validity in being separate from women and girls, because that would take away from girls. That's what she's saying here. So men and boys should be separate, but they should consider themselves to be inferior because they're men and boys, because she's not going to stop blaming them. Like, as somebody who is going to blame boys because of Andrew Tate is not going to stop blaming boys. So she's going to continue to keep boys and men in a group separate from women and girls, and she's going to continue to blame them, and she's going to continue to say we should not treat them as special. And what she means, because she is treating them as special, is we should not treat them as having a valid or good identity. They have an identity separate from us, but it's just not valid and good, or in any way beneficial in a way that we not.
Yeah.
And they wonder why boys Like, you insist that men and boys occupy this space that is special, it's separate from women and girls, but feel inferior. Okay, they cannot join, they can't merge with as men. They have to remain separate, because otherwise, how are you going to blame them all for Andrew Tate? But at the same time, that separate identity can have absolutely no validity and no actual positive qualities, because you might be taking away from girls. It's horrible. Like, if you think about it, it's absolutely fucking horrible.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
All right.
Next paragraph.
The problem with masculinity is not that there are good versions and toxic ones. It is that it is a relational concept. To make any sense at all, masculinity must be something that femininity or womanhood are not. The ongoing obsession with presenting boys with good role models or good models of masculinity will always run up against the fact that beyond greater physical strength, there are very few positive qualities that men possess that women do not also share. Thus, those who seek alternatives to what Tate is offering up end up presenting a watered-down version of the same misogyny. What boys need more role models really means is women and girls should be restricted in what they can say and do, what they are for, so that men and boys can feel exceptional, not as humans, but as males.
Okay, so essentially what I've said is exactly what she's articulating. And again, men and boys have to remain separate from women and girls. They have to be in a separate category. She will insist on doing that because she's taking her sons, blaming them for Andrew Tate because they are part of this separate category from women and girls. But God forbid that society put men and boys in a separate category and men and boys be like, but we don't want to be awful because we're men and boys. We want to have something that we give the world, you know, and they go seek it. No, they should stick in that category of lesser than, because there can't be anything that excludes women and girls.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, well, women and girls are good at this thing and boys and men are good at that thing. Women and girls have to have their thing, and men and boys cannot have their own thing. And people wonder why there are men who are becoming trans women who aren't, they don't necessarily, these trans maxers, shall we say.
Yeah.
You know, they wonder, because this may be the first time in a young man's life presenting as a woman that he or she now gets any respect or any sense of having a valued identity. And the traditionalists are no better, really, than the feminists in this. If they just say that, no, you got to stick in this ugly identity that we give you. And you can use your demonic being to sometimes benefit women, and we allow that. But otherwise, you're just fallen. And you can't, you know, the only time that you're not fallen in the traditional mindset, the only time a man is not fallen is when he's directly benefiting a woman. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, it's like. And nobody, except maybe us, says, well, actually, maybe if you're going to put men and boys in their own separate category and insist on that, like you're going to insist, like literally this woman is insisting that men and boys have powers that women don't, but they're only ever negative. They can never be used for positive. And that they're part of this group, but it can never be a good, can never have any positive qualities. They're always negative qualities.
Yeah.
Because if they had any positive qualities, then that would be excluding women from it. And then, oh my God, what are men and boys doing? They're going to these people who say, actually, it's positive to be a man or a boy. It's, you know, it's sort of a positive thing. It's a good thing. You realize that it's, for a lot of these men and boys, the alternative is this woman and suicide, or trying to find some kind of positive identity somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for her teenage sons.
It's true. I do too.
Mm.
Where was I? So, yeah. I read it. I already read that paragraph. I do not doubt that life is difficult for my teenage sons. Just like their female counterparts, they are dealing with huge levels of stress and uncertainty. Did I read that one? I don't think so.
No, you're good.
I rarely speak to them about concepts such as male privilege because I know that at this stage in life, they do not feel powerful in relation to many people at all. They might know in the abstract that they are privileged, but this is not something they feel in relation to their peers. Why should they? To be their age is to face enormous social pressure with little personal or financial freedom and few assurances for the future. It is difficult, but I do not think they are helped by being encouraged to root their sense of self in the possession of attributes that, according to the misogynist imagination, women and girls lack. Yeah, this woman is kind of evil.
Yeah.
Ever since I was my son's age, I have noticed that whenever girls prove that they are worthy of the rights for which earlier feminists fought, again, I don't know what any of that means because you have the rights. So, I don't get it. This becomes evidence that masculinity is under threat. When girls outperform boys in exams, this is treated not as proof of the enormous injustice of female exclusion from education, but as a kind of theft. When women, that women are stealing.
When men are shot, this is not treated as the proof of the enormous injustice of the bullet gap. When men are shot, the bullet gap that favors men, female exclusion from violence, but as a kind of killing men, you see. I propose that when somebody is accused of murdering a man, instead of being accused of murdering a man, they should be accused of stealing victimhood from a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Because that man is a victim. And obviously victimhood belongs to women. And in fact, we should charge the dead man for stealing that victimhood. Like, what the hell kind of logic is that? Literally. When girls outperform boys in exams, this is treated not as proof of the enormous injustice of female exclusion from education. Like, what? What?
Yeah.
What do you even do with this logic? What do you even do with that?
Change boy and a Jew and then read it again. So I don't know.
When Jews are shoved into, oh god, that's too dark. I'll probably get off.
When girls outperform Jews in exams, this is treated not as proof of the enormous injustice of female exclusion from education, but as a kind of theft.
Wait. No. Gentiles. When Gentiles outperform Jewish people in exams, this is treated not as proof of the enormous injustice against Gentiles and Gentile exclusion from the banking industry, but as a kind of theft.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It doesn't make this sentence makes no sense unless you are the idea that victimhood is anonymous woman and girl is impossible for you to comprehend. Like, she literally cannot separate victimhood from woman and girl. And then she wonders, why do I feel so inferior?
Right. Yes.
Because I'm a victim of everything. And then what's really freaking hilarious is she's like, well, why should I be excluded from all the... Meanwhile, the primary definition of woman and girl in her mind is victim. She's literally excluded women and girls from any form of strength or agency or skill. Because she's associated them with being victims, if not exclusively. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't even think Andrew Tate is this much of a lunatic.
No.
She's I can't even conceive of not just victimhood being anything but woman and girl, but woman and girl being anything but a victim, at the same time as I'm going to complain that people are saying there are certain forms of strength that men have. Well, how is it possible for you to simultaneously say women and girls? In other words, in every scenario, they are weak, and not say that in every scenario, they're strong.
You're breaking up.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I was really close, too. Like, all right. I was said, how is it possible to reduce women and girls down to victims in every scenario and not correspondingly say that men have power, strength, and skill in every scenario that women don't?
Yeah.
Like, this is what's freaking hilarious. She has such a tight association with between woman and girl and victimhood that basically in her cosmology, women are anything. And I'm saying that a person like Andrew Tate might actually say, yeah, actually women have certain qualities or skills or abilities that are different than men, but, you know, powerful in their own way.
Yeah, of course he does.
Yeah, and men have their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And here she is saying basically there is no strength or ability, no real strength or ability associated with women, because otherwise she'd have to allow that women aren't victims in every circumstance.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. Okay, all right. Okay. Well, it's like we can't tell because nobody should feel like they have any strength, I guess.
Yeah.
But men are just nothing.
When girls
okay.
Wait. No, it's okay. Ever since I was my son's age, I have noticed that whenever girls I jumped ahead too much.
No, you didn't jump ahead. We read when girls outperform boys in exam. This is treated not as proof of the enormous.
I see it. Injustice. Yeah.
Next sentence after that.
When women earn enough money to be self-sufficient, they are robbing men of the breadwinner role. When they prove themselves capable of managing their reproductive choices in the family unit, they are reducing men to sperm donors.
But yeah, you're not, though.
No, I never heard that before. I mean, some guys in perhaps like the MGTOW space will sometimes talk about this in a way, but I don't think that that's very common. You can dismiss this as MRA paranoia, but the truth is women are doing this. They are dismantling the shaky foundations of masculinity by revealing the enormous overlap between male and female desires and capabilities. Men can deny this and use violence to enforce their denial. I don't think that's happening, but okay. But women will retain the same potential even if it's not permitted to flourish. Until men can accept that they are not more unique, more interesting, or more quintessentially human than women, they will not be happy. Until men can accept this, because they know it anyways, they will not stop hurting us. Whilst the self-styled... Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm actually a little at a loss for words.
Yeah, it's just disgusting. Whilst the self-styled progressive men might think of themselves the opposite of men's rights activists, their own investment in the concept of gender identity, a concept which essentializes masculinity and femininity, reveals the same attachment to the myth of male exceptionalism. Femininity remains whatever masculinity is not. This does not lead to a world in which boys are being robbed of an identity. It leads to one in which girls are. What's funny about this is they're saying that men are, even if they're progressive feminist men, they are trying to define their masculinity.
Yeah, if there's any unique aspect to masculinity.
Yeah, then that's theirs and it's not women's.
Yeah, and they're still part of the problem.
Yes, okay. which means they're part of the problem, right? This is not
right, well,
oh, go ahead.
this is being said by the woman who essentially essentializes, like she takes Andrew Tate and makes sons to blame for his behavior. Like
Yeah.
she not only does she say that men and boys are a separate group, they have a shared culpability. They share in the culpability of any individual doing of any man and boy. Like, I mean, she so essentializes the masculine identity.
Mm-hmm.
She creates this entire group that she puts men in and forces them to take responsibility for any individual man, and then ascribes to men as a group. So she is doing that. She is making that category, and she is making it separate from women and girls. And then she turns around and says that anybody who does that, but I guess offers a positive identity to the men that she's essentializing, that's hatred of girls. Even if they're like, yeah, women have their own thing and it's cool. No, it's taking an identity away from girls and women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, but you realize that you're already doing it. You are putting category. You are essentially essentializing masculinity, and you're doing it in such a way that, like, it's an extreme way. Like, you're not even just saying, well, they're part of a group that, you know, shares certain characteristics. Not right. You're part of a group that shares crimes.
Yeah.
You know, like, how does it get more essentializing than
that? She obviously doesn't know that she's doing this, but yeah.
No, she's completely delusional.
Mm-hmm.
To the point of fucking insane. Like, this is the ramblings of an insane person, and yet it gets in everybody. Insanity.
Yeah.
This is absolute insanity. And they wonder why these boys are running towards people like Andrew Tate that at least give them a sense that something is good about them.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that they're not going to get the recognition of their victimhood like women and girls are. There's another. She very much puts girls and women in the category of gender.
You're breaking up.
She very much puts women and girls in the category of the gender that we recognize victimhood of, right?
Yeah.
So that's another essentialization that she's doing. Like, she's constructed this hierarchy and this duality, and it's not like boys and men are going to get that. Like, is she proposing that at the very least they get what women get, which is recognition?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right. So, let's see.
You want me to?
This is not a world in which cervical cancer charities advertise using slogans such as "Women, they're worth saving," whilst prostate cancer outreach issues tentative appeals to prostate owners. It's not a world in which significant numbers of teenage boys are disidentifying from maleness on the basis that they feel like a person. It's not a world in which exceptional men of the past are being recast as having been women after all. It's not a world in which men are losing their place in the arts and competitive sport. This is not that world. Certainly sounds like that world.
Wait.
Boys, do you...
Brits go gender neutral here. Oh, so they made an arts category gender neutral. Only men are nominated in the best artist category. And then competitive sport. Also, women are disappearing because, trans women are allowed to compete in their competitive sports now. So I guess she's having a problem with that kind of gender neutrality that against men, they suck.
Yeah.
Men body them.
Yeah.
And exceptional, feel like a person. They're disidentifying from that. Oh, the Last of Us star Bella Ramsey comes. She decided to disavow being female so that she would feel like a person. I see that she didn't become a man, though.
She did not. She came out as non-binary. and queer or something, which means that she gets to be a woman still. And then, like,
dude, lady, I know people or men who disidentified from feel more like a person. Dumbass. You just don't know enough people. This is not a world in which cervical. There was a prostate charity that said men are worth saving. And instead of looking at that and realizing, hey, why do people have to be told that? Well, whereas, and then what she's saying is breast cancer outreach issues tentative appeals to breast owners. Oh God, breast cancer is freaking everywhere, and nobody has to be told that breasts are worth saving.
No.
I don't even know. Like oh God, please someone take her sons away from her.
Yeah, I'm worried about her kids for sure.
Yeah, this is like this is yet another article. Oh my God, she's creating two future suicides probably. All right. Next one.
Boys aren't losing role models, girls are. This is not due to some misguided attempt at inclusion. They're losing role models for the same reason they always have. The same reason they've been excluded from activities of which only men were presumed to be capable. The same reason they've been denied a history and a legacy. Because men have not yet worked out a way of being sure that they exist unless it's in relation to female inferiority.
Okay, lady, you wed the idea of women and girls to victim. Okay, every circumstance, women and girls' agency is inferior to men's. You are 100% culpable of the thing that.
Yeah.
100%. And then you, in an act of doing the very thing that you are doing, you blame men for what you are doing. And I look at this, I'm like, how do you stop this negative spiral, this negative feedback loop that is in this woman's brain? How do you be like, stop? No, actually, you have to take responsibility. You have to recognize your agency as a woman. You have to do that. Men can't do that for you. And once you do, you start to unravel that sense of inferiority that you carry around everywhere. And I also find it absolutely hilarious that this woman essentializes the gender into men are responsible, women are victims, and somehow thinks that people saying, well, men have these strengths is anti-woman, yet basically identifying women with no strength ever is not anti-woman. What she's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
Human lunacy.
All right. Simone de Beauvoir in The Second Sex argued that man is defined as a human being and woman as a female. Whenever she behaves as a human being, she is said to imitate the male.
That's a lovely opinion.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, I guess.
Thanks, Simone. It's a great opinion. Everybody has one.
Yes. As a feminist, I refuse to accept that women are dehumanizing men, robbing them of their selfhood by behaving as human beings. I want my sons to be happy and secure in themselves. This security cannot depend on upholding an artificial distinction between them and their female peers.
And yet,
yeah,
because they share a gender identity with Andrew, they're responsible for him. And yet, you are making that distinction. What you are actually saying is, yes, we are going to essentialize, not just essentialize masculinity as its own thing. We're also going to make every man to blame for every other man's, any kind of criminality. No. What you're saying is that men should exist in a negative identity, a negative space, with nothing positive to their name, not even recognition of their victim. So we can't see men as strong, right? But we also can't see men as potential victims. Even though they're not supposed to be strong, they're not supposed to have any skills, they still can't be seen as being potentially harmed by anything. That's for women. So simultaneously with seeing women as victims, we cannot see men as stronger than them.
Mm-hmm.
But we also can't see men as victims. So men have to be equal to victims without being victims. How? 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 Okay, all of your pain as a woman, and you're putting it on your teenage son. Thankfully, they have testosterone, so hopefully they'll escape it. But regardless, all of the pain that you have is because you have tried to squeeze 300 metric tons of fuck into a brain that can only hold 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe try getting rid of some of the fuck. You might feel better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want my sons to be happy and be secure in themselves. This security cannot depend on upholding an artificial distinction between them and their female peers. This is what leads boys and men to see female achievement as an affront, a theft, something to be smacked down. Right now, it is being smacked down very hard. Boys do not need more sidelining of girls, missold as either celebrating men and boys or being inclusive to tell them they are enough. To be as good as girls is enough. I believe they are capable of that.
Okay, but girls are always victims relative to men and boys. I mean, you can say that this is a... But that's what you're doing. You're essentializing man as being stronger than femininity. Otherwise, women cannot be defined as victims. Period. You're doing that.
Yep.
And then you're saying, well, but we can't see men as stronger. Once you identify women as victims of men, you are saying men are stronger. Okay? That's how reality works. I am sorry, Victoria, but you cannot make reality something other than what it is. No matter how hard you push your feminine wiles, men cannot reconstruct reality to be something other than what it is. If you want to see women as victims of men, men will be seen as stronger than women. The end. If you do not want to see men as stronger than women, you have to recognize how they are also vulnerable. You cannot get away from the eye of this needle, Victoria. You can't. All you can do is live with all kinds of fuck in your brain for the rest of your goddamn life.
I think that's what she's doing.
Yes. No, Brian. No. She's not living with it. Her teenage sons are.
Yeah.
And possibly her husband. And then she probably is going to get to like 60 and her husband is, which will be basically just a calcified lump in front of a TV in a chair who barely responds to her at all. It's just waiting for death. Like he's just turned to stone, right? Maybe that's why Medusa turned men to stone. He's just turned to stone in his chair. And he just doesn't respond at all. He's just as inert as he can get away with. And she's like, why do I feel so unloved? Because you're unlovable. Because you are, in fact, a horrible human being, Victoria. You are worse than Andrew Tate.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Like, I mean, depending. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has a bunch of, who knows, botchabazi, like dancing boys in his basement that he's favored African. Maybe he's that bad. But until we get the information, I'm not going to say he is. And I'm going to say that Victoria is a much worse human being doing much more harm to people. with her
Yeah.
nonsense. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was the end of the article.
We got some super chows, which I shall read.
Okay.
And you guys, last chance to get those super chows in. Nova Fan sends in $5 and says, if the writer of the article wants girls to earn their own income, then she needs to tell women and girls to stop asking the top. Since women in the workplace does challenge and undermine the tradition that men provide for their wives by earning more than them. No, she wants women to earn exactly as much as men, but also all be able to marry a man that earns more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do that, men, you're misogynists.
Yes.
Okay. And Brian, if you have anything further to add, I've been really...
You've been doing a lot of talking?
Yes.
Sure. Hang on a second.
Put your thoughts in order.
Yeah, give me a second to get those together. So, Super Chow. Nova Fan.
Yeah, I already read that.
Oh, okay. Zeranx gives us $5.
Yep.
And says, if women continue to operate in the path of hypergamy, how does recognizing the role of men as provider protector disappearing?
Not merit consideration.
Not merit consideration. That's kind of confusing. How does recognizing the role of men as provider protector disappearing?
If women want to marry men who... I'm sorry, and yeah, you have to read Victoria's Screed in the context of one of the best-selling novels of all time was 50 Shades of Grey. It was 50 Shades of Grey, and why was Christian? Because, to be honest, that novel was chock-a-block with creepy, disturbingly, like not like awkward, somebody who makes like an awkward pass. No, disturbingly, creepily aggressive, sexually aggressive guys. Mm-hmm. And the only distinction between Christian and them was Christian had the moolah. You see,
yes.
That's what made him attractive to the main character and to the women reading. So you have to listen to Victoria's Screed in the context of women want men who are better than them at something. So that this is this, or if they feel like they're getting something from having a man, which requires men to have their own value position of some kind, So essentially, and no doubt, if Victoria married at some point, she married a man she perceived to either earn more than her, to be better in some way than her, to have something that they brought to the relationship. Here's the freaking hilarious thing. If a woman marries some guy, and he doesn't bring anything to the relationship, she's not going to be happy. She's going to think that she was cheated.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, this has absolutely nothing to do with human. It's completely non-functional. It should be a form of insanity, but it keeps published. So obviously our society thinks it makes sense. Sorry, obviously, because this stuff keeps getting published, obviously our society thinks that this makes sense on some level, right?
Mm-hmm.
That this makes sense. Mm-hmm. That this woman makes sense. That she has a coherent argument, even though her argument basically amounts to women are victims of men, but that means we can't see men as stronger than women. Well, you can't do both, dear.
Right.
Like, don't vomit your delusions and consider that to be a movement or an ideology. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I read the next one for Xerix? By the way, once again, that's badger.com/justthetip. If you send us a message, very much appreciated.
All right. Xerix gives us $5 again and says the author is basically trying to eat her cake and have it in women maintaining their wants from men while rejecting men's predetermined roles. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, that's what could be the case. I mean, she's talking about this whole thing from the perspective of apparently her concern for her sons. So I don't know if she's trying to like have her cake and eat it too. I don't know.
No, she's talking herself out of having concern for her son, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Like, she's talking herself out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
she's basically trying to convince us that she doesn't need to worry about her sons, or that she doesn't care what happens to them, or something to that effect.
Here's the thing. Even if you say that these gender roles, you try to say, well, they're social, she's still doing that. She's literally category, Tate, saying, yeah, because they're part of this category, this essential category I've constructed, they share blame with Andrew Tate. She's literally doing that, and then complaining that men are in a separate category from that. That men put themselves in a separate category and have the audacity of saying they have a quality that women. Well, even as she, which is apparently the ability to victimize, which means that men by definition have to be stronger somehow than women.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to go with this sort of vicious, mean-spirited war between sexes, apparently men are winning because they network better. But we can't say that men are better networked.
Yeah.
They're victimizing women with it. Like, seriously, this is what patriarchy means. It means that men have unbelievable instinct to network and cooperate that women don't. Okay? If you're not going to rely on their physical strength, which they usually don't, men just are better at cooperating with each other and networking. Mm-hmm. That's why they enact their dastardly, massive scheme to rule the banking world and keep the German down, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a superiority there. We can't allow that. So simultaneously with women being defined as victims, we cannot define men as having the strength to victimize them, because that would be defining men as being strong, which we can't. It's like, it's a never-ending bullshit cycle.
Yeah. That's
okay.
True.
I'm a little done with this, I think.
All right, I'm done with this too.
Yeah.
Let me just. Do we have any thank yous to give or anything like that?
Thank you to everybody who sent through a super chow. Thank you to Cam for sending in a certain amount to the fundraiser. Once again, if you want to help us out, it is feedthebadger.com/support. It's very much appreciated. And if beta reading my story, that's badger at feedthebadger.com. There's still some more room for beta. There's always room. The more the merrier.
Is there like a thing on the website? Like, if somebody just went to Feed the Badger, would they see like a blurb or something that will direct them to beta your book?
Oh yeah, you can go to feedthebadger.com/I. Because the book's title is The Captive Eye. All right, so you can go there and take a look. I probably haven't updated the summary. I've been working on this as I go. Mm-hmm. Or you can just send a message to badger at feedthebadger.com. Multitude of words. All right. So, did you say what you wanted to say, or shall I? I have nothing more left to say.
All right.
I think that this is insanity.
Yeah, it is.
And what really surprises me is that people don't realize that this insanity, if you attempt to construct a society on it, mm-hmm. or to have a society whilst having this level about the most fundamental macro unit of society, which is the relationship between, if you're going to entertain this level of insanity about that, it is unlikely you are going to continue to have this insanity it's like societies they're macro interactions. And this is a fundamental aspect. The relationship between men and women is a fundamental aspect a fundamental way of organizing those micro interactions to get a macro effect. And if they're this deranged, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Unless we fix it. That's what I wanted to say. Just don't, like, I know people are like, no, it's more the micro is macro. You know, eventually these interactions propagate and they create macro effects. And in this case, I think we're watching the of this insanity on our world. As I don't know if people have noticed, the world gets insane. And we can't solve this by continuing to blame men, continuing to essentialize them as horrible people, or blaming subgroups of people because you associate them with men, which is something I've been seeing as well. Like men are sexual predators, therefore X group of people doesn't belong X place. That's something that's very common in history.
Yeah.
And, at least the history, like 19th century. I think prior to the 19th century, 19th, 20th century, we had a little bit more perspective. Seems we lost our minds somewhere at the end of the 1900s. But anyway, that's the last thing I can say.
All right.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for supporting. I could do a check.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we need like checking music. No, we're good.
No. Okay, we're good. I guess we didn't need it. All right.
No.
So, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you know when our streams go live. And share this video, comment on the video. That would be super nice of you to do and helpful.
Am I wrong? Is this woman insane? Is she not insane?
Yeah, tell us, like, is this woman crazy or not? I mean,
am I crazy?
All right, and thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we'll talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.